Housing is a big issue to a lot of people, and things ain't looking good at the moment. The government have gone in a number of drastic measures which will have a big impact on housing and people's requests for housing. It's a massive subject. We couldn't look at everything, so primarily we wanted to look at the physical state of the housing stock. What's it like? Is it going to get better? How can we make it better? So on and so forth. So that was the prime purpose of our meeting. Well, the majority of people live in private sector housing, either owner-occupiers or rented. That's what 4/5 of the people live there. So we wanted to look at the whole of it because people in the private sector are under considerable pressure. You know, the high rents, there is a substandard accommodation. We learned to our surprise just how much of it is substandard now, and we want to know what the council could do to raise standards and help the people who are in such dire need at the present time. For a number of years, very little was spent on council housing, but for the last dozen years, 15 years or so, millions have been invested in council housing. That shows across the borough. The Decent Homes has brought practically every house up to standard. There are still pockets that need improvement. By and large, council housing is exemplary in Barnsley. What we wanted to consider is how can we continue with that given the cutbacks that we're facing. The Cabinet recently approved a programme of repairs and ongoing improvements, which is excellent if the finance is there to carry it out. At the bottom of all this is the government's proposals to completely rejig the way in which housing is financed, and basically they're coming down to a self-financing. Whatever the council gets in on rents, you can spend back on council housing. The problem with all that is there are going to be such drastic alterations to the benefit system and the like that lots and lots of people are going to find it very, very difficult in paying the rents. Now that's a problem we're likely to face in the future. As things stand at the moment, no need for panic. We can continue doing the improvements that we have been doing, but the future is very uncertain. Around 8,000 people on the council's waiting list, irrespective of the people in the private sector, and those people are desperate for housing. Now we've an obligation to help them in any way that we can. Council house tenants in Barnsley are superb. They're probably the best payers in the country, but they are under considerable pressure now with all the things that are facing them. So we've an obligation now to see what we can do to help them. That's on the council side. On the private side, we learnt yesterday that lots of the grants that the council's been able to give to people, sometimes on a means-tested basis, is drying up. There are no grants available. Thankfully, we've got the kind of accreditation scheme at our next meeting. We're going to have a couple of meetings on this. We want to look and see how that can be expanded, whereby we get responsible landlords and tenants signing up to see how each can help the other and how the council will help the pair of them. We need to expand that rapidly from what we've seen. I do believe that as much as 25% of the private rented sector is substandard, considerably substandard. And the council, of course, as an enforcing authority, needs to regulate that. Now, that's a considerable pressure on the council to do that. The last thing I want to do is put any scare stories around saying that things are going to come to a halt tomorrow. They are not, but we want people to tell us just what the problems are. They're the people at the sharp end of this. What are the issues? What can we do to help them? Some people are in quite dire straits. The facts speak for themselves. It's something that can't be ignored. It's going to put a lot of people who are already in difficulties in greater trouble. And we've a moral obligation to do what we can to try and prevent that happening. So this is an initial step in looking at how we can do that. As I say, it's the first of a couple of meetings. Over the next few weeks, the councillors will be asking people to give them their views on what the problems are, what they think ought to be done about it. And when we've got all this together on the table, we can hopefully come up with something positive that will help the people that we represent. Repairs and maintenance will continue. You know, we have a budget to do that, but I say the way the whole system is financed is altering quite drastically. And so what the future are, we can make no long-term plans. You know, as things stand now, Barnsley will carry on doing what it can do for its tenants and also for the people in the private sector. But we want to take whatever steps we can at this stage to make sure that they don't all come to a juddering halt if things turn out as badly as they could turn out. A lot of people are teetering on the brink at the moment, and we don't want them to be tipped over the edge.